Welcome. This is my mentor debrief of standard 4 and 5.
Okay, so first let's talk about what were your goals for the lesson and the different activities that you set up.
Okay, so my goals were to obviously illustrate the standards, and because it was a literacy lesson, it was to engage the kids in conversation and increase their communication with each other and just about the topic. So just using the songs and the videos, clips, books, everything that we've been reading, so that it can culminate into them talking confidently about the vocabulary that we're learning.
Yeah, I know in the previous videos we talked about how to incorporate more like language development and the different ways to get the children to try using some of these words. And I thought that this time I can tell that you really took that and ran with it and tried. Um, it was really, I could see the focus of the lesson, getting the kids to use the word paleontologist and fossil. Um, and part of Standard 4 is creating learning experiences that make the aspects um, accessible and meaningful. So I thought the activity of them digging for fossils and how you were just interacting with them and you also using that language was a great way of meeting Standard 4 in an appropriate way for their age.
So I just want to check, when they say using academic language, when I'm talking to my kids in that language and they talking back to me, that's it in action, right?
Of course. And yeah, it was so cute. Even some of the after you sang the song, one of the little girls started saying, she was like, you can probably hear me in the video. I was like, she said it. She was like paleontologist,
Yeah.
and that's such a big word for little ones. But by the end of the lesson, most of them were saying it, and yeah, you can see how do you plan to incorporate these words throughout the week so they can keep practicing.
So we'll be using the wrap-up song that we made, that uses both the target language fossil, paleontologist, and dinosaur, all that, for as a wrap-up for most of our literacy classes. And what I thought was really cool was the strategies that you told me about in terms of clapping the words out and using different ways in which they can chunk it and pronounce it and then put it together. And so yeah, I saw that, and then that was really cool. I didn't expect them to say such a long word.
That was so amazing.
And in the assessment in the end, when they could choose which word they wanted to say as their exit ticket, most of them chose paleontologist,
Yeah.
and only two chose fossil.
Yeah.
And one of the boys that chose fossil was a student that can say fossil and paleontologist quite fluently. So I think he went something different. And the other one that chose fossil was one of my youngest kids, and not a very confident speaker yet. So I think he was still intimidated by the word. But
Yeah.
we've got the whole unit
Yeah.
for him to carry on. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know last time we also talked about incorporating your co-teacher to reinforce some of the questions or the words. And we saw in the video that you asked one of the little girls to point to find the fossil footprint, and when she heard it first in English, right, she didn't really understand, but then when your co-teacher explained to her in Thai, she was able to solve the problem, right? So it's not always, it's really important to use our co-teachers, because then sometimes we think, oh, they don't know or they don't understand, but they do understand. It's more just a language learner, right?
And I think it also helps them to what's it called, interlanguaging or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Connecting.
Yes. So it created a good link for them. And I remember before we could plan this lesson, and we were talking about the standard 5, which was making cultural links.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you told me about those dinosaurs in Thailand.
Yeah, they're so proud to have such a big dinosaur excavation sites up north.
Yeah.
When you go up there, everything is dinosaur themed.
So that's great because that was the thing that I needed to tie in that standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And continuing on talking about standard 5, I know last time we also talked about giving the children sometimes like more autonomy. So I liked how at the beginning you allowed the children to pick their own groups, and that might also encourage them to work with other kids that maybe they don't really get a chance to work alongside.
Yeah. And because it was like a smaller class, because a lot of kids are absent, I thought it would be better for us to change up the group, and it did work out better in terms of, because my goal was just I want them to talk. It doesn't have to like they don't have to like paint anything. You know what I mean? They don't have to make something in the end. So it was nice for them to be with people that they liked. So it encouraged that more.
They're speaking, yeah. And I know we also talked about to continue on like bringing parts of their culture in. I thought it was cool how you talked about the paleontologist that was famous from
Thailand.
Because then they can also get the idea like, oh, maybe when they see themselves in pictures, right? Because if we're looking online and we're printing out pictures of paleontologists, rarely will we find, unfortunately, some people who look like them.
That's true.
So I think it's nice to provide those images for them so they can see themselves in the activities that you're doing.
Yeah, like after the lesson completed, there was one student who told me that I asked, like, I don't know what we were talking about, but he looked at his clothes, because what we also did was we sent a note to the parents to let them know that we're doing Paleontology Day, and so a lot of the kids dressed up as like explorers and paleontologists.
So cute.
So that tied it in so well. And this one kid told me that he is a paleontologist.
Oh, fun.
So it was like, okay, really something.
And he's using the vocabulary.
Yeah.
And then also if you're connecting it to their home like that, then their parents also know what they're doing that day, so then they can even ask them at home, oh, what
Absolutely.
did you do in your outfit today? And that can give them more opportunities to use new language.
Yes.
And I thought that final thing was that we've discussed for the past videos about trying to limit the carpet time, and I think during this lesson in the beginning, the carpet time was a lot more limited, and we saw that there weren't as many like children standing and getting up or feeling distracted.
Yeah.
It went a lot smoother, that part.
Yeah, and I think it's because I've been always very reluctant to use a lot of technology in the class, but I think it's like part of the progression of how the kids are learning these days. So I just use the pictures and some movement in it, and I think it got the attention a lot more. So I saw it as a favorable thing.
Yeah, I think a little bit of technology that's of course is okay, and especially if you're using the technology and you're also speaking and they're not just like watching a video, it can enhance their learning. But like you said, right, we also need to be mindful of how much we're using it, and like how many minutes a day, right, that they're looking at a screen. But I think in this lesson it worked out really well, and I really liked also in the beginning, which I'm gonna do this with my class, how you put their faces in Bangkok and then use Google Earth to like expand. I thought that was a really cool visual for them to see. Yeah, I'm gonna do that with my kids. That was super cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think this lesson you really took so many of the things that we talked about and put them into practice, and we're really intentional with the language development, the carpet time, and hearing the kids use those words was
for me too.
awesome, and that was the goal, right? So good job.
Thanks, Kendall.
Yeah.
Thank you.